So the election interference indictment against Trump has been cleaned up and brought back. A grand jury of Americans have officially voted to re-indict him on these charges, as the Supreme Court officially ruled that he has immunity for official or presidential acts. So it took out some of the ordering of the DOJ from the indictment, some of the directing he did to lower level officials in his administration, or any other things that could be interpreted as an official capacity. And it brought back the charges of him concocting the scheme to defraud the election, knowingly spreading false information. So I want to look at a couple analysts on CNN breaking down what's in it and what it means.
Donald Trump was using people in battleground states, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, etc., to try and change electoral votes or deceive the state people, the people in the legislators in those states. One of the things, too, that the prosecutors have to do here is they have to be able to show how Donald Trump was doing this. And one way they want to do it is with his Twitter account. Now, they have to walk a really fine line here, and this is the sort of thing that could very well be adjudicated with the judge, that they're going to need to talk about related to immunity because he was president at the time. And they have to write in here, here's a quote, "The defendant, Donald Trump, continued to make false claims nonetheless with deliberate disregard for the truth, including through his Twitter account." So that's the allegation. And they say that although he was sometimes using his Twitter account to communicate with the public as president about official actions and policies, he also regularly used it for personal purposes, including to spread knowingly false claims of election fraud.
And this is kind of funny that they even have to walk this line, because Trump is trying to claim that his Twitter was official presidential actions, which is kind of laughable in and of itself, but also even more so if anyone followed his Twitter at the time, you would know how denigrating that would be to the presidential office to consider those tweets presidentially official actions. But hey, I digress. The bigger point is that he was using that Twitter to knowingly spread false information about the election, false information that to this day, his followers still parrot as if it's true, despite it being proven that everyone around Trump told him the things he was saying were false. So he just knew they were lies. And by the way, Rudy Giuliani, who spread the lies about ballots being stuffed in secured boxes overnights and mail-in ballots just appearing at 3 a.m. and all the other lies about the mail-in ballots, Rudy in court admitted that he lied. He literally admitted that he lied about all of it. So it's all just a sham. And yet MAGA to this day still pretends that there's merit to the things that these people were saying. And this indictment stands to keep all of that in, along, of course, with Trump's scheme to using these lies to support this scheme of him taking fraudulent electors in 7 different battleground states to subvert the actual votes of the people who were in those states.
I mean, it's more like, what did he not say? This is a real novel here. He posted on Truth Social, probably longer than, or at least the same length of the indictment himself. But essentially, he does a lot of the greatest hits. He says that this is an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C. He calls it an act of desperation. He refers to Jack Smith as deranged, something he has done multiple times in the past. He calls it a ridiculous new indictment. And then he goes on to talk about how the Florida case was dismissed. I think probably the most interesting part about this, but not surprising, is the fact that he has officially moved over to the fact that this is election interference on the side of Kamala Harris. Obviously, we heard for months and months and months about how this was, quote unquote, Biden election interference. Now, obviously, he has a new opponent, and now it is Kamala Harris's election interference. And I will tell you that he is getting briefed on this by a lot of his own legal advisors, because I spoke to some of them earlier today who said the exact same thing.
And that should give the game away to any people who were yelling, Biden's DOJ, parroting what they heard Trump say like the mindless drones that they are, the absolute sheep. Now, what is it now, right? Is it Harris's DOJ? Did Biden pass the baton? Like, here you go, Harris. I'm too old and senile. You take the DOJ and direct them to go after our political enemies. As the vice president, she runs the DOJ. Like, are we supposed to actually believe this? Even though, again, another grand jury of Americans re-indicted him. Not Harris, not Biden, not Democrats. Cry more about it, MAGA. I don't know what else to say, because nobody with half of a brain with 70 base IQ would buy that. And the notable thing to take from Trump's response to it is that he denies none of it. Still, he at this point does not say, I didn't do it. He just says, this is election interference. My other case was dismissed, so I deserve immunity. It proves that I'm immune. So he knows that he did it. He's admitting that he did it. He just wants the Supreme Court to come and protect him from the consequences of his actions, which should be ethically, morally disqualifying for anyone who wants to hold office again, but MAGA's not the brightest. So instead, they just vote. They're voting off the things he says are real, right? They're voting because of big media, even though the biggest media corporation in America is Fox News and they wholeheartedly back Trump, and right-wing media has far more reach than left-leaning media, or it's because big tech, despite his VP being a big tech millionaire with multiple connections in big tech who are now all like Elon Musk publicly supporting Trump, or it's because we have to get rid of the swamp, even though most of the swamp were Trump appointments who just didn't want to go along with his scheme to steal the election. So now he's saying that they're all rhinos. But Trump says it's all real and it's a problem. And so they're going to buy it with no evidence, nothing to support the claims, just Trump's word and a dream, because it's easier for them. And we're all supposed to buy this. Remember, this is supposed to be real life. That instead of Trump just doing these crimes, that all Democrats, all media, all tech companies, all judges, all institutions, any Republican who disagrees with Trump, and everybody, and half of America is in on some large conspiracy against Trump. Yeah, okay. But when you're voting for the party that believes in Jewish space lasers, I guess I see why you might buy this one.